Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Council on Future Conflict, episode 516. My name is Scott. I'm the proprietor of the Future Conflict channel. Today, we're talking China keeps it fresh, and the cartels are coming. Can you hear that drug a coming? Anyway, a little Johnny Cash in my head there. Gentlemen, how was the weekend? Did the weekend treat you all okay? No trauma.
No, we had none. It was a busy weekend. We have 16 people in class here for the RTO course, and
Oh,
I
awesome.
don't know how many yet for the SIGINT course, but always good numbers. Everyone's having a great time and really enjoying the site out here at Camp Ponderosa. So good
Yeah, that's
stuff.
awesome. Yeah, it's so beautiful out there. I swear, when it's like anytime I have a really nice day here in Korea, not necessarily a sunny day, but like the weather's nice and everything. Like I always think about like all the other places that I've been and what a nice day is like there, and so it's kind of like you can't say like what today is in Korea versus what today is in Montana. You have to think of a good day in Montana versus a good day in Korea. And I swear, you're in probably one of the best places I've ever been to spend a good day. So we're all a little bit jealous of you there, Joe.
Yeah, we're really enjoying it. It's good class.
Watcher, how you doing?
Good. If a bit. Well, I'm very grateful for those of you who sent prayers. Um, we did finally get news this morning about what it is, and they've begun treating him. But yeah, for those of you unaware, my father-in-law had a pretty bad health situation that's had him in the hospital overnight for a couple days now. So I was unable to make the Montana trip, so as to help free family members up to be able to take care of that situation. So
That just means we get to talk about you.
it's true. But appreciate all of you who did send prayers. You're all fantastic.
Yeah. Well, this is an amazing chat that we got here. So you gotta give it to them. It's like they come and they get the call and they come, right? I recently tweeted out one day recently about the public standing up against something important. I think it was in Ireland, and the key thing that I said is like, listen, when people are needed, you have to show up. I mean, that's like 9/10 of success is showing up when things are important. So I just I'm very humbled by the fact that our audience every time we've
Hold on.
they've always showed up.
I agree. So many of our longtime mods are yelling about a certain situation. We're not going to ignore you. Everybody's pissed off about the situation, man.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm not super interested in talking about that today. I think there's some interesting stuff about it, but this is kind of like phase 1, right? Well, maybe phase 0 was like, we know something's wrong with him. We just don't know what's wrong with him. Now we know that what was wrong with him, or at least one of the things. I mean, prostate cancer didn't even touch the man's brain, and we know the brain's broken. So now it gets to like phase 2 and phase 3. Who knew? How long did they know? What did they cover up? All that kind of stuff. And that'll be a while before we figure all that out. I mean, I just assume the worst. But, you can't just, run off the mouth assuming the worst. You actually have to have some knowledge before you take a solid position. So.
Agreed. I just mean, don't feel bad about being pissed off about something that big. Like that's
100%. I mean, I kind of take the opposite position. If I get pissed off about everything that I see out there, I'd be pissed off constantly. So I tend to get pissed off like about nothing. Honestly, it's probably I have the opposite problem, right? I don't get excited enough.
Yeah, to close this out, Tennyson has a good prediction, which is nothing ever happens. I'll modify this. I think something will happen. I just don't think it'll be what everybody wants to happen.
I'm going to echo my good buddy on the council here and say, yeah, I'm sure that AG Barbie will be right on top of that.
Yeah. See, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think more than likely there's probably enough. How do I put this? There's probably enough momentum behind something like a push to say make some kind of standardization around presidential health check-ins. It'll be something that basically is enough to say, haha, see, we did something, but utterly ineffectual.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That's a good place to leave this. Gentlemen, are there any pre items that we need to talk about? I guess I want to bring up one thing, and I don't want to jump deep into this. Maybe this is something that we could save for Domestic Friday, as I think it'll probably develop more. At least not conclusively, but just more information about this. Is the fact that the Clinton body count was trending on X over the weekend. I thought that was it's always good to remind people. And watch your, one of the things that I saw that I was literally just a graphic, an infographic that had all of these people that were connected directly to Bill and Hillary Clinton and how they died. And it was just kind of like, but you forget. And so when you start reading names and what their positions were, and let's be honest, most of these people weren't enemies of the Clintons. They were close allies. Like they were working hand in glove with the Clintons. So it's not like, and if I had that many people around me commit suicide, I'd be a nervous wreck. I would be, incensed, but they got no chill.
Oh, it's even orange.
Well, our Corgi, 1999. Been a while since I hooked up the homies with some cheddar. Dude, you're awesome. Nobody. I tell you what, you guys want to hook us up with some cheddar, just tell your friends about the channel. Or go support our sponsor, brushbeater.store, and use code CFC10. That would be a good way to hook us up. You get a 5% discount, and we get a little kickback as well. So there's that.
I have to say that chiming in from the cheap seats over on Twitter, for fuck's sake, it's called Arcanicide. It is indeed. We have a specialty term for this.
Whoa, Hunch the Dirty Roofer over on Rumble, in the Rumble chat, gifted 5 subs to Future Conflicts. Thank you very much, brother. You're one of the OG supporters of this channel, so thank you.
Appreciate you, Hunch.
Anyway, so I thought I just got a kick out of that kind of popped up. I have no idea how that popped up, but it did, and it made me feel good to know that people are reminding people out there about that. If you haven't done already, please take the link to the show and jump on your favorite social media. Share it out there. Let people know Council on Future Conflicts on this morning, and you're getting some good stuff out of it. See, this is different. I'm asking you to share at the beginning of the show to see if that helps. I don't know what helps. I'm A/B testing, right? I'm trying different things to see what works.
I like it.
Like right now, I'm sharing the link out on X.
Same.
Check
I
out.
already did.
I know. I could tell. I could see this number right here, and I know that Joe is doing his bit.
I was waiting for it today.
I know.
Oh, Willem Corgi just got his new JR and PBS 14 mount from the Brush Beater store. Congratulations.
Yeah, I
those
tell you,
new PBS mounts are solid, real good.
I tell you what, man, the Brush Beater store is solid. I mean, like literally, it's kind of like they've got all the things that you need and none of the stuff that you don't need, right? I mean, it's like because a lot of stores will just throw product against the wall and see what sells, and then they're stuck like stocking stuff that nobody cares about. But Matt's been really targeted. He's got a mission in how he his philosophy to the things that he teaches in his class and the things that he writes about in his books and the things that he sells in his stores. And it's very lean and I like it. And it's one of the reasons why, despite the fact that just because, Matt's a friend, even if I didn't know Matt from Adam, I would love to have that type of store sponsor the channel. So we just got lucky, I guess.
Well, we need more stores like that are ran by someone who actually operates the gear rather than somebody who just sells the gear, right?
Yeah.
And Matt won't sell a product that he doesn't stand behind. So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. All right. Let's jump into the odds and ends, shall we, today? Sorry, I got to open my first one up here. Joe, this is something we've talked about in the past as an asymmetric form of kind of area denial or things like this. So I just thought this was interesting, and it reminded me of the the tanker war, back in time that you might remember. GPS disruption reported in the world's most critical maritime choke point. A new report emerged stating that vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz are experiencing GPS interference disrupting electronic navigation systems and forcing commercial ships to rely on manual or backup methods in one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. There's a couple points here, Joe, that I think are important, and I want to get to those in more detail. And one is that Iran is still actively causing mayhem. And two is that never rely on just 100% on something like GPS, that if you lose it, then you lose your ability to do said task, right? And we'll get into that, but I want to hit this first, and then we'll kind of talk about that. UK Maritime Trade Operations announced on X Sunday morning that it has received reports from vessels experiencing GPS interference in the Strait of Hormuz area, with disruptions lasting several hours, affecting navigation systems and requiring vessels to rely on backup methods. They provided no further information about the source of the GPS interference. However, it is caused by a foreign adversary. If it's caused by a foreign adversary such as Iran, GPS interference in a critical maritime choke point could be considered a form of hybrid warfare. Yeah, it's asymmetric threat is what it is. Says we're negotiating. Let's see. The incident occurred after Iran's president said the U.S. agreed to continue nuclear talks on Saturday. We are negotiating. We will negotiate. We are not after war, but we do not fear any threat. That was their president, Masoud Pezeshkian, during a speech in the military broadcast on state television. The issue of GPS disruption in the Strait is that it's considered an energy superhighway of the global economy. About 20% of global oil and 30% of seaborne traded oil passes through such a narrow strait of water. It's about 17 to 20 million barrels per day, and that connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. Joe, this is not the only critical maritime choke point in the world. We've got the Straits of Malacca come to mind. We've got Straits of Gibraltar right there in the Mediterranean. We've got the Dardanelles. Yeah, I mean, so these things are all over the place. Yeah, exactly, right there by
Djibouti.
Yemen.
It's that tight spot by Djibouti.
Yeah, but the problem doesn't come from Djibouti. It goes towards Djibouti.
No, the problem comes when you're trying to slip into Djibouti.
When Yemen comes into Djibouti, that's right.
Yes.
Anyway, enough of that. We are a serious show, and we do not.
Look,
I don't
it's
know
not our
what-
fault. It's not our fault what our ancestors decided to name countries. All right.
So anyway, yeah, this is definitely something of interest to us, and so I want to get back to this whole idea of Iran is not completely innocent at this point. They are still providing a threat. Joe, if they're in the middle of negotiations, it makes me wonder if there's multiple power centers in Iran that are maybe not on the same page. That shocking, I know. Like the IRGC doesn't want to, maybe wants to continue the fight, but maybe some of the political leadership is looking for an exit ramp. Gosh, that never happens.
I don't think it happens in Yemen.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm talking about Iran in this case, where the IRGC is almost a country within a country.
Well, the IRGC is the de facto government, and they get to do whatever they want. So,
yeah. So the irony is despite the fact that the Trump administration is negotiating with the government of Iran, there are other elements of that could literally kind of queer the deal, if you will, by continuing activities like this, because Trump is just not going to view this kind of stuff in a friendly light. This is not a friendly action. We're just going to tickle your GPS receivers. Speaking of tickling the GPS receivers, Joe, GPS is probably one of the most pervasive technological crutches that we have. And there's nothing wrong with using it, but you got to use it. It's like you need to know the real analog way of determining your location on a map before you even start to use GPS. Because if you can't default back to degraded situations, then you're fucked.
yes.
Yeah. So now talk about that, because you're probably one of my biggest, one of the biggest advocates for that kind of thing that I know, and why it's important.
Well, first of all, is one of the biggest problems that we have in anyone in being ready and prepared is this normalcy bias and this "it can't happen here" syndrome. And just because you think that someone won something, everything, you can't ignore the rest of what's going on in the world. Situational awareness is a thing. So sure, we're closing down the border in America, but there are already millions of bad people here, including Iranians and Afghans and other folks who don't like us. There are forces in the world who are rattling their sabers and making things happen. We've got people blowing themselves up outside of fertility clinics, which has not happened ever. A vehicle-borne IED attack. That's not something that normally happens in America. And especially not a suicide vehicle-borne IED attack. You need to understand what that means about risk. And so then everyone becomes over-reliant upon technology in that same environment, just like ships and GPS. There was a day when a ship's master would say, "I'm not doing that GPS. I'm going to retain my..." Are you all right, Washer?
Yeah, it's kind of...
Washer's being dragged off by some sort of a creature. But as all these risks come up, see, you know I take the long way around, but I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
All these risks come up, we become over-reliant upon technology, especially as ship's master. There was a time when they would never consider using GPS because they wanted to keep the old ways alive. Well, now the modern shipmaster basically is a computer engineer who lets the ship do all of the work, and he just sits there and sips coffee. And when GPS goes down, he doesn't know what to do. But you have to be able to do something. You have to retain those old world skills, just like we do in preparedness here, having other ways of making fire. Sure, I'd rather use a lighter, but I have to know how. Having other ways to communicate. Sure, it'd be great to use my email or my cell phone, but what if I can't? Hence why we were in class this week.
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned at the beginning there about biases and things like that, and one of the things that I've really been thinking about a lot in a lot of the little the plans I'm making for some of the stuff I hope to start churning out in the near future is the idea of biases, right? Like cognitive biases, because understanding the cognitive biases and how we think helps us kind of get around the problems, right? And so you mentioned like normalcy bias and what was the other one you said? Like it was like things are always going to be okay.
Nothing ever happens.
Right. Well, there's a couple others, right? And so like automation bias, like things that just occur in the world around you automatically, you take those for granted and you don't assume that you need to kind of fill in for them. And like everything is like that. Like a great example is the Rolodex keeps you from having to I know Rolodex is like old school tech, but it's just an example. But it keeps you from having to memorize like phone numbers, right? Can you memorize phone numbers? Sure. Like all of us back in the day, we memorized a shit ton of phone numbers. Like kids are always calling and they don't have Rolodexes, right? So they have to memorize their friends' phone numbers because they had to do it. But kids don't memorize things like that anymore because they all save it in their cell phone. So that's that automation kind of picking up the cognitive load. So you don't have to rely on it.
On demand right now, Mrs. Tax Wisdom can't produce my phone number, but I know hers. But she does not know mine because she doesn't have to. She just pushes the Joe button and it calls me.
Yeah. So. Availability heuristic is another one of these because basically it's available and it's, so why replace what's available, right? Prioritizing GPS because it's, it's familiar and it's always, it's kind of ubiquitous, right? And understanding underestimating the likelihoods of failures. Anyway, these are just some examples. And so the better you understand these biases, the better you will be able to kind of critically assess your preps. Now, normalcy bias, Joe. Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say normalcy bias tells us that there's not going to be a V-bed go off in the United States. Yet that happened this weekend. And it's exactly what we've been talking about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So two pieces. One, this is why I teach land navigation. No matter what goes on in the world war-wise, the Earth will still be a giant magnet and a compass will still work. So you got to know that. But two, since you brought it up and it's not in our notes, I want to address a question that came up on the Rumble chat about, hey, do you think this is a leftist plant trying to make the right wing look bad since they bombed an abortion clinic? Okay, so that was the media originally telling you it was an abortion clinic. It was not an abortion clinic. It was a fertility clinic. And that's what was bombed by an avowed rabid leftist who was anti-birth, anti-Christian, anti-Western society. And this goes to something that Matt was in the room here before the show, and all of us had a discussion about where America is headed. The left right now is absolutely willing to kill you for their ideals, and the right is not. And I'm not saying you need to get ready, but I'm saying you need to understand exactly where you are in history right now. You are in a very bad place, and it's getting worse every day. But we pretend like because our guy won, everything is fine. He doesn't control the left. They're on their own.
Yeah, I know we went a little further afield on that one, but I think this is just a great example, like when a real world thing that's happening out there, has a direct impact on how we conduct our preps back here. So I couldn't help but do that. Hunch Dirty Roofer for $2 over on Rumble says YouTube is gay. Come over to Rumble. We get to use bad words on here. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $1 says, wasn't GPS disruption part of the plot from Tomorrow Never Dies? Which one is Tomorrow Never Dies again? Is that the James Bond movie?
Yeah. Timothy Dalton.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton. But right.
It's also been the plot of like every Russian invasion ever. So dating back to Georgia. So
yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Clancy didn't sprinkle that in there, some of his books.
I'm sure.
I'm sure all good things were predicted by the prophet. Peace be upon him, Tom Clancy.
There's another one.
All right.
There's another $5 honorable.
Oh yeah. I just there we go. Peter says helicopters for $5. I'll never forget the faces my NCOs made when the daggers couldn't connect to satellites during the night navigation. At Mountain Warfare School, E4 Mafia broke out maps and compass so we could get home. Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? I'll be honest with you. If I'm honest, now I'm not going to make a defense of lieutenants and their map skills, because the sad thing is that I have seen amongst all ranks in the military of a detriment of the land navigation skills. And this is not in just recent years. This is like going back to 20 years ago when I was an infantry lieutenant. And let me tell you who the worst offenders were. Joe, when you're in an infantry, kind of formation, who's the lead guy? That lead guy is usually what? A team leader, right? He's like that. He's like that E5 team leader who's leading his team, which is the lead team in a squad formation, and the squad is the lead squad in a platoon formation, right? So that E5 is like the guy.
So in the Marine Corps, squads are commanded by sergeants and teams are commanded by corporals. We have 3 teams, not 2.
Are corporals E3s or E4s?
E4s.
Yeah, E4s. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. About half of my team leaders were E4s, specialists, right? Sometimes corporals. But for the most part, the MTO, Army MTO is an E6 squad leader, E5 team leaders. So you've got 3 NCOs inside an infantry squad. And so the sad thing is I don't know how many times, and the platoon leader usually kind of is in a headquarters element directly behind the lead squad, right? I don't know how many times I had to walk up into the lead squad and ask the squad leader, "Hey, does your guy know where we're going? Is he tracking?" Because at like a good PL, I'm actually tracking as well. And when I see them going 45 degrees off azimuth or something like that, I'm like, is he tracking? And, so I hate to say it, but my young NCOs, they were the ones that needed special love when it came to land nav. Now, most of my lieutenant friends needed special love too, but they weren't my people. I only paid attention to my people. So the bottom line is we all need a little TLC on our map skills because they are perishable. Trust me. Ask me how I know.
I just shared a fact that's unpopular in the world. Yeah, there it is.
It's accurate.
I just shared this, but for those who are listening to this later, the Lance Corporal Underground is greater than the E4 Mafia.
This is straight facts.
I'm not going to debate this. I will just make one point, right? A Lance Corporal is expected to be a leader, right?
Well, he's an E3, but yeah, sure.
He's an NC. He's it's like an NCO. Like in the Army, if you're a specialist, you're not an NCO. If you're a corporal, you're an NCO.
See, Lance Corporal is the non-NCO. The corporal is the NCO. So E4 is when we step up to NCO.
Well, right. So that's what I'm saying. So all your E4s are NCOs, but not all of ours are. So
yes,
the interesting thing is that at the E4 level, the non-leaders have way more kind of leadership than many of the E4 leaders.
Yes, and that is what Joe is getting at here. Is that in the Marine Corps, E3s end up getting tasked. You'll see E3s walking around with E8 billets. That happened to me for like a good year and a half. You'll see E3s that are driving generals around, all plus, and so they're all non-NCOs, and so not quite as much as officially expected of them, and B, all buddies and in communication with each other which means very, very, very often the command structure finds out about stuff because they go, hey, Lance Corporal dipshit, what's going on in the barracks?
I'm sorry, but that Lance Corporal's name is Schmuckatelli. Lance Corporal Schmuckatelli.
That's true.
Glenn Beck's going over decline of empire. The problem is we were never a very good empire. It's like we're almost the anti-empire.
Well, yeah, and I love I'm glad we at least get to bring this up today, because I was just thinking about this earlier. I love the fact that people are like, "Oh, empires are 300 years. America's 300 years old." Okay, great, but we weren't a fucking empire until the end of World War II, dipshits.
But we weren't ever an empire. At best, we were a franchise model.
We have and still have protectorates, but okay.
Well, I mean, are you talking about like Puerto Rico?
Yeah, and
well, we had way more of that before
the Philippines.
We had way more of that before World War II than we had after. I think there was, during the Progressive era, I think there was this idea that we could become like an imperial style power, but it just like America doesn't like mesh with that. Like, all right. Let's move on. Houthis again target Israel's international airport with ballistic missiles. Yep, they're at it again. Houthi can't stop tripping over their own. Well, anyway, the Houthis have responded to Israel's major Friday airstrikes on sites across Yemen by launching 2 ballistic missiles at Ben Gurion Airport near Tel Aviv. The Israeli military announced Sunday morning the intercept of at least 1 inbound ballistic missile, saying there were no injuries or casualties from the attack, only light injuries of people clamoring to bomb shelters. The irony is the siren goes off, you go into a bomb shelter, and you get injured tripping down the stairs to get into the bomb shelter. Sirens had sounded across central Israel, including Tel Aviv and the Shephelah and Sharon regions, sending nearly 1 million residents scrambling to bomb shelters. Preceding the sirens by some 5 minutes, an early warning was issued to residents, alerting civilians of a long-range missile attack via a push notification on their phones. Houthis military spokesperson later confirmed a statement that the group's intent to strike Ben Gurion Airport again after earlier this month scoring a direct hit. Crucially, he warned Ansar Allah, the Houthis will keep up these attacks until the siege is lifted, in reference to Gaza. I'll be honest with you, the way the Israel's going right now, I don't know that they're going to be 2 bricks mortared together still in Gaza by the time this is all said and done. They seem to be pretty well intent on destroying the entire place. And they'll just move the population around to different camps within it until they get everything.
I do believe I predicted exactly that right when this started.
Let's see. As for the new missile attack, the IDF said the air defenses shot down the missile at around 2 a.m. The second Houthis missile is believed to have likely fallen far short of its target, perhaps landing in the desert. Iranian state media described it as a hypersonic missile launch. Well, all ballistic missiles most ballistic missiles are hypersonic. Though this seems dubious, all of this means there are likely more Israeli attacks on Yemen to come. The IDF now struck and severely damaged the ports of Yemen that are under the control of the Houthi terror group. The airport in Sana'a also remains destroyed. As we said, if the Houthis continue to fire missiles into Israel, they will suffer painful blows, and we will also strike the heads of terror, just as we did to Deif and Sinwars in Gaza. They went after Sinwar, or was it not Sinwar? He's the one they killed last year. I guess there was a recent one that you just released information about. let's see, Nasrallah in Beirut, Hania in Tehran. And it looks as if each side will continue trading tit for tat blows. I tell you what, Joe, if I were one of Israel's enemies, I don't know that I wouldn't sleep very sound at night.
Yeah, I would be worried. Yeah.
If I'm an Israeli leader, anti-Israeli leader.
I'm also not sure you could really call it tit for tat blows when one side is fully dismantling military complexes, collapsing military tunnels, knocking off military leaders, and the other side is essentially finding pregnant women in the streets in order to kill them. It's kind of, weird.
Yeah, there was some recent in Yemen. They made some social media noise when they executed like 5 guys in the middle of the street. I guess nobody had any idea what they did at the time, but then evidently it's come out that they were homosexuals. So yeah, go you pro Gaza people. This is what they would do to you. Yeah. So Yemen keeps on being Yemen, and eventually Yemen will just collapse under its own weight. All right. So not completely disassociated with this, Joe. It's nice to see that some people haven't lost their minds over this guy. Syrian president skips Arab League summit in Baghdad after outcry over ISIS background. Wow. You mean people? So if people anywhere would remember this guy, it would be the people in Iraq and northern Syria. The summit of the Arab League began on Baghdad on Saturday with Syria's president absent following Iraqi outcry. The Palestinian Authority president Mahmoud Abbas was the first Arab leader to arrive in Baghdad on Friday, followed by Egyptian President al-Sisi and Qatari Emir al-Thani on Saturday. However, a diplomatic source told AFP that most Gulf leaders would not be attending. Other figures present in Baghdad on Saturday include United Nations Secretary Guterres and Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez. The summit is expected to discuss numerous crises afflicting the region, including Israel's ongoing attack on the Gaza Strip. U.S. President Trump, who has been touring the Gulf states, sparked outrage in the Arab world earlier this year when he declared his country would take control of Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. Yeah, because they don't understand that that's hyperbole. That's how he works. In response, Arab leaders announced the development of a post-war plan at a previous summit in Cairo in March to rebuild the territory. Which is exactly why he said he would do it, so that you would get off your ass and come up with your plan to do it. The Iraqi government has said that this month's summit would endorse the plan, which calls for $53 billion to finance Gaza's reconstruction over 5 years. Under the proposal, the territory would be administered during a transitional period by a committee of Palestinian technocrats, i.e. terrorists, and that's why it will never work. Before the Palestinian Authority regains control again. I'm here to tell you that the Palestinian Authority will never be in charge solely of Gaza ever again. That's my prediction. I don't know what you guys think of that, but I don't think Israel will ever allow that to happen again, because they'll get exactly what they got before, which is October 7th. We're not just rebuilding Iraq, we're also reshaping the Middle East. Through balanced foreign policy, wise leadership. This is coming from Al-Sudani, wrote in an opinion piece earlier today. That's the prime minister. So the Syrian Al-Qaeda founder, Iraq is still trying to stabilize after years of violence sparked by a U.S.-led invasion in 2003 that overthrew long-term leader Saddam Hussein. Controversy had swirled around an invitation extended by Sudani to Syrian President al-Shara, or Jalani as we call him here, who came to power after overthrowing Bashar al-Assad in December. Numerous Iraqi politicians had called for him to be blocked from attending over his past membership in al-Qaeda in Iraq. a group responsible for the deaths of thousands of Iraqis during the 2000s. Although through often indiscriminate and sectarian attacks, on Saturday it was reported that the foreign minister, who was also a member of Syria's al-Qaeda wing, alongside Jilani, would be attending the summit rather than the president. Iraqi media reported last month that at least 50 MPs from Asib al-Haq and Katab Hezbollah, the two Iran-backed armed political factions that provided military support to Assad against Jilani and other Syrian opposition groups, had filed criminal complaints in Iraq courts against the Syrian president. So the irony here, Joe.
The irony of Hezbollah filing a card against you for being a terrorist.
Exactly right. I mean, here's the thing. I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the terrorists who are complaining about the other terrorists. What I do have sympathy for, and I think there are a lot of people in Iraq who remember him and guys like him. You know, a certain Zarqawi comes to mind as another of his ilk who just killed people by the boatloads in Iraq. When you have got family and friends and close relations that have been victims of these kind of terrorists, it's a lot harder just to say, oh, well, we're just going to drop the sanctions and we'll start being friends again. You know, this is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it is. I have no sympathy for him, but I will laugh and point. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, let's be honest. If he sells out, takes the money and runs, that's good for the region. But it also shows what kind of a cowardly, essentially non-believer the guy is. Though I don't believe it for a second. I think he's looking for an opportunity to become a larger Sunni spoiler in the region and to bring essentially terror back. It's just got to bide his time. This is a Safa Rashad, a Baghdad resident who lost 3 cousins to al-Qaeda blasts in 2005, told Middle East Eye last month that he was appalled by Soudani's decision to invite Jilani. Jilani is the face of terrorism. He must be held accountable. I lost 3 cousins to his group's violence. How can someone like this be welcome as if he's an honored guest? Well said. And for me, that last quote is essentially the entire crux of this issue. And I think a lot of people in Iraq feel the same way. All right, gentlemen. Any final thoughts on that gutless coward of an al-Qaeda terrorist in charge of Syria?
I think that it would be better if people invited him places and didn't let him leave. Than
what's Syria going to do?
Right? Maybe the Saudis could invite him to an embassy. Wink, wink.
Well, you know, it's one of those kind of things, Joe. If he went to Saudi Arabia and they just made him disappear and they said, hey, well, something happened to your president. What happened? We don't know. He's out in the desert somewhere. He got lost. We can't find him. So you guys just need to figure out a new president. You know, try not to elect a terrorist this time. Oh, wait a second. You didn't get to elect him in the first place, did you? Funny how that works.
Funny how all of us pro-democracy people are all about a man taking power by force of arms. Weird.
All right. Joe, tell us a little bit about what you got going on in the tactical wisdom world.
Ooh, well, I'm yawning because it's been a long week. When you run the camp, you're the first one up in the morning and the last one to bed at night. You got to make sure everybody gets where they belong.
Yeah.
Because there'll be somebody who overdoes things and whatever. But anyway, we do what we can. We are running classes all this week, so that's why there's no new article yet. I'll probably try to slip one in tonight or tomorrow night. Just talking about camaraderie and building community and all that kind of stuff. Because I'll be honest, the best benefit to any of these classes is the time spent together after class, just chatting, getting to know each other and talking about the things that are going on in your communities. So come to events, come to classes, and get to know each other. Heck, there's a couple of guys who aren't even in class that just came here to camp because they knew the classes were going on and they could spend time with like-minded people. So I think that that's important, and that has a lot of value. I got another guy coming in tonight for just that. Hey, heard you guys were all hanging out. Thought I'd like to come hang out too. Absolutely, come on. Because at the end of the day, what we're going to have is each other. And you need to be building that team and that community and that network, because I might be halfway across the country when the lights go out, and I need people along the way. Come and go to events, come hang out with each other, no matter whose event it is and wherever. I will point out that there's still a couple of slots left for this weekend's Community Security Apps course, but it's getting pretty full. So if you were on the fence and thinking about it, Darren, I'm talking about you. You need to get in here. Somebody reached out to me over the weekend and then said to get back to me on Tuesday. I would get back to me very quickly, so you can. But I also added a course in October at Matt's place, because here's what's going on. Mountain Readiness, the big preparedness expo, will be going on that first weekend. There'll be a one-day break, and then I will run Fieldcraft, followed immediately by the Scout and Recce courses. So over the course of that week and a half, you get a lot of great training in. Come on out and see us in North Carolina, Montana, wherever you are.
Yeah, what's going on this week is a perfect example of just what's happening in the kind of the tactical wisdom universe. You go to a tactical wisdom event, you're going to get to meet a lot of great people. You know, a lot of times he does it in conjunction with amazing people like Matt. And so you can kind of do the twofer. You got Shield Field Days coming up. That's another thing that go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Absolutely. That's July 25th through the 27th, right here at Camp Ponderosa. Come hang out, spend the weekend with us and a bunch of other people. We're adding people every single day. The good folks at Swan Mountain Outfitters, a big hunting and outdoor adventure trip company, is going to be there. A lot of good stuff. And, you know, late last night, our friend Juan Gringo from the chat showed up. And this Thursday, at no cost to anyone, he's going to talk about what they did to defend their ranch from the mass illegal immigrant surge that was going on. And that's going to be really cool information to take in. So good times.
Yeah, that's some interesting stories there. I've heard some of them. So, all right, let's go to our shameless commercial break here and talk about the brushbeater.store. Today, we're diving into the growing shadow of China. And we're proud to bring you another ad by our trusted sponsor, brushbeater.store, arming you for what's ahead. China's on the move in 2025, flexing its cyber warfare, strangling global supply chains, and eyeing Taiwan while cozying up to rogue regimes. Whether it's a hack shutting down our grid or tensions boiling over in the Pacific, you need to be ready. At brushbeater.store, the DM32 radio with AES 256 encryption keeps your comms secure, letting you coordinate with networks fail. Want to outsmart their tech? Grab the Gorilla's Guide to Baofeng Radio by NC Scout, our buddy Matt. Your playbook for off-grid comms, for improvised antennas to encryption channels, for next-level prep. Their 2025 Signals Intelligence course teaches you to intercept and analyze enemy signals with classes in North Carolina, Missouri, Montana, and more. Check out brushbeater.store/collections/training-courses to sign up before the spots are gone. Use our exclusive code CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the DM32, the book, SIGINT training, or any other gear like night vision or ballistic helmets. Orders up to $100 ship free. Visit brushbeater.store to counter the threat. Big thanks to Matt, the owner of the Brushbeater store. Matt's dedication to the CFC and our community's readiness is unmatched. Thank you again, Matt. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and stay one step ahead of China.
And, you know, we don't have him on today, but he is tied up making breakfast. I put him to work, and he's got class starting. So he really has to be there to meet everyone. But we mentioned it in that ad, but I cannot say enough good things about this Baofeng DM32 UV. We just over the weekend we built a UHF jungle antenna, put it up in a tree, and then someone took one of these with a stock antenna and started driving down the highway here. At 21 miles, we told them just turn around and come on back. So because this thing was not degrading in range at all. And it was digital voice, not analog. So digital obviously goes farther anyway. But this radio is rock solid. It's a great little unit. So
if you compare, if you pair that with like some like a repeater network, I mean, it's pretty OP.
That's the plan here. And we're also working on, this is experimental right now. We won't know until he gets back to North Carolina for us to try it, is we're working on a way to do nodes. You radio guys will know what that is, but direct Starlink to Starlink rather than using the internet. So we will, we will let you know how that works out. So
yeah, that's pretty fucking cool.
Good work. So I'm gonna try it.
That's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, I was following some of the stuff you guys were talking about with those radios. Did I get you to get me one of those?
I'll tell him that. Yeah, we'll grab you one. Actually, there's a bunch on the table over there right now. By the way, Rev Hazmat is in the chat, and I want to tell you that guy has been a rock star here for about a week. He came out early to help me set some things up and did some things. He actually found a dead creature in the electrical system in the old building over there. So great work there, helping that out. And he's just been running around doing all kinds of things, little maintenance tasks and things like that to help out. I did an outstanding job in class, all while wearing a hat with the CFC logo on it. So outstanding.
You know, the more and more that I think that, I think about Camp Ponderosa, I'm not totally sold on living, in Montana because of reasons, like it's Montana. There's stuff to love about it, but there's other stuff that I'm like, kind of like, well, and, also because my wife would actually leave me if I moved there. You're lucky yours actually went with you. Mine would actually divorce me, like just for bringing it up as a serious topic of conversation. But, but the more I see the kind of community coalescing, whether it's at G Camp or whether it's at the, Camp Ponderosa, or whether it's just online, the idea of like living in a community of like-minded people, just the appeal just grows and grows on me. It's almost like that might be a good idea someday.
It might be someday.
All right. Let's get into the main topic. So today we're talking a bit of China. We haven't talked enough China lately. So there's not like one big thing, but I did notice there were a kind of a brace of stories, or maybe a hat trick of stories that came out recently along the lines of. So I'm going to read the first two titles, and we're going to talk about these individually. But U.S. General details China military plans to defeat U.S. and Taiwan war. So that's a Newsweek article. And then the next one is U.S. prepares for a long war with China that might hit its bases in the homeland. Now, the sources in both of these articles are different sources, but the fact that they both came out around the same time. Now, why is some of this happening? Well, I think anyway, there was a big conference, U.S. military conference in PACOM in Hawaii last week, and I think some media reflections are coming out of that, but. These are independent, and I just wanted to kind of go down this rabbit hole today. All right, so this is the first story, right? Newsweek article, U.S. General details China military plans to defeat U.S. and Taiwan war. So retired General Charles Flynn, former commander of the U.S. Army Pacific, USAPAC, as we call it on a, Talk about an organization that I've never been part of, but I know very well. stated that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is no longer a distant or theoretical, citing Xi Jinping's directive for the PLA to be ready to take Taiwan by 2027. Flynn emphasized the need for robust deterrence to make an invasion costly for China. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others in the Trump administration stressed that deterrence involved demonstrating military readiness and coordination with Taiwan to counter China's growing capabilities. The article underscores the urgency of the U.S. military preparedness and allied cooperation to prevent conflict. So that's this first article, right? Joe, what's your kind of initial take on this article based on the kind of the summary I just read?
Well, I don't know that there's any big surprises in there.
Right. Yeah.
Just that we're revealing it. And I think that tells us that there might be some desperation amongst those in the defense establishment saying, hey, look, this is closer than you think, and we're not doing enough to be ready for it.
Yeah, so just to kind of, so he was speaking at the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the U.S. and the CCP. Also testifying were Mark Montgomery, former Director of Operations of Indo-PACOM, and Kirk Campbell, Deputy Secretary of State from 2024 to 2025. Yeah, I mean, so this is now. If you've been a fan of this show for a while, you know that we've been talking. Easier said than done. We've been talking about the fact that China and a Taiwan war doesn't necessarily look like a bomb. Bombers going over the landing craft coming in. It doesn't necessarily look like that. We tend to think that it would be kind of start as a warm war, right? Like a blockade or some sort of embargo of Taiwan by Chinese forces. Now, what that does is that basically puts a barrier between the rest of the world and Taiwan, and it forces the rest of the world to then, break the blockade, right? There's definitely some room for brinksmanship on something like that. But the irony is that I think that strategy is not as applicable if Donald Trump is in office than it was, say, when Biden was in office. This is one of the reasons why we all kind of, if you go back to 2023, we were all kind of looking at Q1 25 as the kind of the critical mass for China to be able to make a move against Taiwan. Joe, I mean, you think that still stands, that, the blockade strategy is still viable for China at this point? Or do you think maybe they're kind of having to redo their calculus based on, the new situation with Trump and everything?
No, I don't know. I think that they'll get a more aggressive response from Trump, but I still think the blockade is the way they'll probably go. They'll just have to adjust it and make it a little bit stronger at the outset, but I do think it's still the way they're going to roll.
Steve corrects me. Yes, the Land Forces Pacific Symposium. Yeah, USAPAC was, I think, the host of that.
I also think, too, that the idea that it will all begin at Kidman is still true. So you just have to be prepared for that. And if you see something happening around Kidman Island or Matsu Island, I would be prepared for whatever follows.
Watcher, I know you're a bit of a China watcher. You got any thoughts on this? Or did he just step away?
No, I double muted myself, so then I started talking and realized, oh no, you didn't hit the second one. Yeah. Look, I've been talking about this for about a year now, in that I believe that the current set of ramping up of blockading that they've already been doing is the early stages of it. I think we're literally already in the early stages of Taiwan being at least attempted to be retaken, and I don't see that. I don't see anybody at this point stopping it.
Yeah,
we have huge security contracts that have delivery just around the corner coming down the pipeline. I bet that is now creating a deadline within China.
Well, so here's the thing. Like I don't disagree with either of yours analysis. The only thing that I think China has to basically rewrite their plans around is the only force in the world larger than China's national ego that says that them assuming control of Taiwan is inevitable, and that's the ego of Donald Trump that basically says you will not defy me. And if they can basically get past that, then they'll be able to kind of do what they want. I got a super chat over here on YouTube. Arturus, the Abyss Walker, for $20. I honestly don't think Trump in the White House changes China's plan. Maybe they'll make adjustments, as Joe said, but it won't surprise me when the day comes that those Chinese fighters don't turn away. Also, here's $20. Dude, you're a legend. Thank you. Guys, I don't know, man. Here's the thing. I think China plays the long game. Trump is the short game, right? And I think that it's nothing for them to push pause and wait Trump out.
China plays the long game. She plays
okay. No. That's my next point, right? So Xi he's not getting any younger, but at the same time, if he determines that the difference between success and failure is Donald Trump deciding to get super aggro in response to Chinese aggression to Taiwan, then maybe he pushes the pause button for 2 years and basically hands the invasion of Taiwan over to whatever president is going to follow Donald Trump, especially if it happens in that like first 100 days kind of thing when they're getting their team in place. That may be the sweet spot.
So JD Vance.
Well, I mean, we don't know, right? I mean, we got to get through the midterms, and right now the midterms are looking good for the home team. But and JD Vance seems to be the heir apparent based on everything I'm seeing. Though I think Marco Rubio might have something to say about that. And Marco Rubio would be a better choice for the Chinese than JD Vance.
So not a lot of hopeful options anyway. The Chinese are looking at.
Yeah, I think it's all. But then the other kind of point to Vance will win on the memes alone. Guys, did you see him with the Pope? By the way. Like there were posts yesterday saying, "Oh, the Pope basically waved him away and gave him like the cold shoulder." But then they have a sit down where they like meet in private for I don't know, like a pretty significant sit down. So looks like he didn't blow JD Vance off after all. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this gives China also another, essentially 4 years to get ready as well. And having seen that their stuff in Pakistan worked, this might be one of those kind of things where maybe they're looking forward to getting a little deeper bench of gear that is legitimate and can stand up to Western tech.
I don't know that's the case because Xi Jinping is not getting any younger, and he wants to be the one who does it.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually the strongest argument for why it happens in the short term. Everything else, if it's just China, everything is okay. They play long game, right? China played long game, but Xi is not getting any younger. So, I think if there is a deciding factor there, that might be it.
And everyone keeps saying China plays the long game. China's been playing the long game since 1949. At some point, the long game has to conclude.
Joe. China's been playing the long game since the Ming Dynasty.
Well, I understand that, but the PRC has been.
I know. I'm just.
I'm going to back up there and just reinforce what Joe said. I find it shocking that the long game included starving out nearly half of your citizenry and then forcing the other half to only have one child to the point where your demographics are now entirely collapsing and you're utterly fucked. What an admirable and an incredible long game. Central planning. What a win.
Nobody ever said they were smart. Watcher. But they do have long time horizons. All right, so the next article is U.S. prepares for long war with China that might hit its bases in the homeland. So this is basically something similar to and along the lines. Brigadier General Doug Wickert, speaking at Edwards Air Force Base, warned civic leaders of potential disruption to U.S. infrastructure, including cyber attacks, if China were to attack Taiwan. He highlighted China's rapid military buildup and the U.S.'s reliance on advanced aircraft like the B-21 Raider for deterrence. Senior U.S. officials note Xi's order for the PLA to be invasion ready by 2027, though. So they both referenced that, which I thought was interesting, Joe. Though no attack decision is confirmed, the article discusses the U.S. strategic ambiguity on defending Taiwan and the Pentagon's focus on visible preparedness to deter China amidst industrial-scale military buildup on both sides. You know, Joe, I mean, getting ready by 2027 doesn't mean go code in 2027, right? I mean, you know, they're definitely leaning into that analysis.
But it also, you have to remember something. There was this guy who wrote a book a couple thousand years ago named Sun Tzu. And he was a master of redirection and deception. And if I tell everyone, I'm not going to be ready until 2027, I then go in 2025 for some strategic surprise. I don't put a lot of faith in self-reported dates of readiness. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. I mean, I don't purport to know when they will go. I'm just saying that if they say 2027, I think that's a pretty good indicator that it probably won't be 2027.
Shoot, you did somewhat spoil it. I had something ready, which was a fun little video of the actor who plays the bad guy in the first Die Hard film getting dropped on what the staff was saying was we're gonna drop you on 3. Okay, ready? 1, drop. So
that's one too. And then when we say, well, we assess that they won't be ready until 2027, we also assess that they didn't have hypersonic missiles until they launched one, right?
Yeah, well, and evidently the U.S. is determined just to never be ready, so that way they're always ready. We're just not gonna do a good job of preparing for a real war in China, you know.
Right.
That way we've got everybody loves an underdog. We'll have to fight from behind. I mean, not having a plan does not constitute a plan.
What's sad is what you just said. I could so picture being pitched at a Pentagon meeting. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I mean, it's almost like I spent 20 years in the military listening to these people. All right. So there is one of the things that I kind of honed in on both of these arguments or on these articles is the idea of the U.S.'s idea of strategic ambiguity, right? It's like we're not really committing one way or the other on this issue. We have started to kind of sell Taiwan more stuff. And the Trump administration talks about defending Taiwan, right? The current, Pentagon seems to want to take a more active deterrence role. Both General Flynn and Rubio shift their comments basically are pushing us towards a more focused deterrence message from the current administration than what you saw under the Biden administration. And I'll be honest with you, I honestly thought we were going to see before Trump took over a Chinese move on Taiwan. I honestly did, because the Biden administration was such a gift for that action. And it's shocking that they didn't take advantage of that. And
Yeah.
that alone makes me think that they may not be super eager to go. Like, I don't know, like maybe they don't want to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg. I don't know. The whole nothing seems right about what's going on with China. So that I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do, if I'm honest. All right, guys. Let's move on to this next story. China fires warning shot at U.S. Treaty ally. And so we've got some footage here of Philippines and the Chinese together. Yeah, let's see. China's fired a warning shot at the Philippines for following a close naval encounter with the U.S. defense treaty ally earlier this week near a contested feature in the South China Sea. I love it, a contested feature. China claims that most of... What's that, Joe?
It's not contested at all. It is occupied by the Philippines.
Yeah. Let's see. Video released by the Philippines show a pair of Chinese naval frigates on Monday carrying out what Manila called a high-risk maneuvers as they intercepted a Philippine corvette near the Scarborough Shoal, the traditional fishing ground. The interesting thing here is, Joe, instead of sending out the Coast Guard, which is what they normally send out to these kind of logistics ships, when a corvette, an actual Philippines corvette goes out there, they send frigates, like actual PLAN frigates out. So it's, those high-end Chinese Navy ships are always kind of hanging back and come forward when needed. So the Coast Guard doesn't have to kind of get in the position of facing down the Philippine Navy, because that's a different level of threat than the Coast Guard and logistics ships that go out there. Let's see. The traditional fishing ground known as in the Philippines as the Bayo de Masinloc, and in China as the Hangyan Island, lies in Southeast Asia's country's exclusive economic zone and has been a site of tense face-offs between the Chinese and Philippine governments. During the Chinese Defense Ministry's regular press briefing on Thursday, newly appointed spokesperson Zhang Bin said a Philippine warship had attempted to intrude into China's territorial waters. The fact that they claim that is absolutely just... I know they've been doing it forever, but it's still to this day is just... I can't believe how stupid that is. He said it was the Philippine side that had approached in a dangerous manner, seriously threatening Chinese sovereignty and security, and that Chinese forces had taken necessary measures to block and drive it away. We urge the Philippine side to stop all dangerous acts of infringement and provocation and to refrain from challenging China's firm resolve to safeguard its national territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests. Otherwise, it would only bring harm to itself. China's maritime forces seized effective control over the uninhabited atoll after a 2012 standoff with the Philippines. The feature was addressed in the 2016 by a ruling of the International Tribunal in The Hague that largely dismissed China's South China Sea claims. The Chinese refused to participate in the proceedings and maintained this decision is illegitimate, because of course it is. That's China. So basically, Marcos is basically saying he's not going to cede 1 square inch of Philippine waters. He's expected to continue his administration's effort to modernize the Philippine military, bolster security ties with the U.S. Joe, I as much as I don't want to see us get involved in any new wars, it would emotionally and it would just... I would be very happy to see U.S. destroyers patrolling this neighborhood on a regular basis. But I don't know that that's the best thing for all parties if they were to do that.
Yeah, I was doing some research on the size of the frigates of the Philippine Navy. So Philippines has a pretty good sized Navy of 90 ships,
Yeah.
and an 11,000 man Marine Corps out of a 24,000 man Navy. So that's pretty legit. But when you're a maritime nation, you have to be. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have to be so bold in stopping China. It's not just about territory. It's about them being a maritime nation. And if they lose control of the seas, they lose control of their outlying territory. So they have to really establish themselves as a naval power that won't back down. It makes it kind of hard for the Filipinos.
Yeah, Watcher, can you pull up the map that kind of shows what the kind of agreed upon, internationally agreed upon EEZs and everything is here? So you can zoom in on this map. Yeah. It's actually a pretty good map, I thought. Anyway, and so this is not what China agrees to. China basically takes all of this. But this is what the international agreements are with some of this stuff here in the middle being kind of open sea, whereas like the Scarborough Shoal, Spratly Islands are all well within the Philippine exclusive economic zone. So I saw an argument down in the comments of this story about actually, the Philippine claims are probably the weakest of all the claimants. Because basically they didn't. It says they didn't get an independence until 1946, and then the U.S. advisors discouraged them. Yeah, you want to know why the U.S. advisors discouraged them from pressing their case? Because we were trying to suck up to China during the Cold War, and we didn't want to cause any trouble with China. So we asked our ally to, hey, keep it on the DL. Don't kind of get all in their business, right? And yet, these are the kind of weak-ass arguments that the tankies will trot out, saying that China has a stronger case here. The good news is ever since the whole Russia thing has happened, the tankies have kind of mostly gone away. They've turned into Antifa or other things like that. All right. Let me go to the next one here. Getting back to this story, Joe, we talked about this last week. I thought this was interesting to see that there's a little more has come out on this. Chinese kill switches. We talked about this in the. So evidently they, Joe, I was really surprised. There were a lot of stories on this within 24 hours of us talking about it here on the show. So I thought this was good. Let's see. Chinese kill switches discovered in U.S. solar panels could cause blackouts. The Chinese kill switches have been discovered in American renewable energy infrastructure, with experts warn could cause widespread blackouts and destabilize power grids. According to a report by Reuters, U.S. experts found rogue communication devices. See, that's the political way of not directly attributing it directly to the CCP. But if it's in a Chinese product that was exported to the U.S., it's because the CCP put it there.
Yeah.
These are in solar power inverters manufactured in China. Devices, including cellular radios, have also been found in some of the batteries from Chinese suppliers. Reuters reported citing two unnamed sources. One source told the outlet that using the communications devices could destabilize power grids and spark widespread blackouts. That effectively means that there's a built-in way to physically destroy the grid.
So it's important to note that that's not a kill switch. It just totally went against what the story claimed. They're not actually kill switches. They're a communications network, and you have to ask yourself why they're there. I believe it's personally a private communication system for Chinese intelligence agents. And what it said was, if they use that communication system, it can overload the power cells and take them down. It's not something designed specifically to take down the solar panels.
Yeah, so here's the actual statement from the DOE, right? It said, while the devices may not have had malicious intent, it is critical for those procuring to have a full understanding of the capabilities of the products they received. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's anything more specific. The United States claimed that the Chinese information and communications products pose security risks is completely baseless, says the Chinese Commerce Ministry. Of course it does. We hope the U.S. will respect facts and stop politicizing. I would love to hear what the Chinese explanation for these devices is. Like, hey, this is here. Why is it here? Right? That would just be very entertaining to see what kind of fiction they spin up on it. Maybe they'll use what's the Chinese AI platform? They get that to come up with some BS answer. So anyway, Joe, I thought
troubleshooting. You turn over me.
But the interesting thing is that I thought for sure that this story would be completely buried, but the fact that it's in mainstream media outlets, a week later, it's kind of surprising. So that's a decent sign. Could be better, but all right. And then the final kind of parting shot on China today. China fully respects Denmark's sovereignty over Greenland, the foreign ministry Wang Yi told his Danish counterpart, urging Denmark to reciprocate on Chinese sovereignty concerns. Wang's comments came after Denmark hosted the former Taiwan president, Tsai Ing-wen, in Denmark. Joe, you got to admit, this is funny. Like China basically said, hey, we support you guys owning Greenland. The U.S. are threatening you. We're not doing that. But yeah, we'll do the exact same thing. Actually, they're doing way worse. Like our claim on Greenland is not so much of a claim as like, hey, listen, it's an interest, right? We would be interested in having that. And you could argue whether it's a good idea or not. And I don't think it has broad support in the U.S. I would say, a lot of the Trump MAGA people love the idea because, well, Donald Trump came up with it. But if you look at Joe, if we were playing a game of Risk, I'd want to own Greenland to kind of shut down that corridor across the North Atlantic. I'm just saying,
But it's not necessary because the GI-UK gap is already defended by the U.S., United Kingdom, and Denmark.
Well, I mean, I know. I'm just saying that would be if let's say Denmark became an unreliable ally, then U.S. control of that would be advantageous, but not critical. But what China does on the other side of the world is basic. Well, I'm doing just a direct comparison.
You're not going to do this. You're going to do this. Okay.
No. What I'm saying is I can see the interest, right? It's an interest, not a claim. Like there's no territorial claim by the U.S. or we're not asserting that Greenland is within our exclusive economic zone, so we're going to occupy it, right? Which is exactly what China does, and to extend their economic zone, they make land out of rocks that they don't control. So it's just the irony that China comes out like as some sort of supporter of their territorial claims, I think is rich. It's kind of like don't look them, too close. The little spiral hypnotized rays are coming at you from the Chinese guy. So. Anyway, I just got a kick out of this story. I think it's rich, especially, another great example of China doing this are the stories about, this is an internal matter to China. Please do not get involved in our internal affairs and all that kind of stuff, which, well, China does that all the time, all over the world. Watcher.
Oh, wow.
What's up?
I just spotted something relevant to this. Did you know that Taiwan's apparently decommissioning its last nuclear power plant today?
Well, you know, it's ironic that it is that they would do that when Germany basically says that they're going to restart, you know, and reprioritize nuclear energy in Germany. Yeah, I don't know why they would take a nuclear power plant offline. You'd think that they would need power. They need more power, not less power. And they don't have any other natural kind of, you know, they're reliant on us to import.
100% of their energy needs.
The nuclear power plant is? Or
No.
us?
No. They now import 100% of their energy needs, all of it.
I swear, Joe,
from
people just
where?
don't listen.
And from where?
Mostly China, obviously.
I swear, Joe, it's almost like they don't want to listen.
No, look, it's not just that they don't want to listen. It's like I've said a long time ago. It's like they don't care. Like it's like the Taiwanese don't care. It's like they actually might prefer to just end the fiction and rejoin China. And if they're not willing to fight for themselves, I don't see why a single drop of American blood should be shed in that pursuit.
I completely agree with that statement. All right. On that note, let's move on to our second topic here today. Talking to the cartels a little bit, Joe. We had a lot of news about the cartels popping off. I'd say about a month ago. We had the ISR assets started going into Mexico and basically turning Mexico into potentially like a Pakistan GWAT kind of model where, oh yeah, we don't operate in there, but then we would start operating in there. And the irony is that since then, so I'm going to go back to a prediction I made, is that ultimately that I didn't think that the higher ups in the cartels are motivated to go to war with the United States because they are the targets and they're rich, right? And they're not ideological. It's not like these people are like Muslim terrorists who are willing to give their life for. They are literally rich guys who want to stay rich, right? They worked hard to get where they are, and they've stepped over the bodies of friends and enemies alike in order to get there. And so I have the feeling that it was my kind of prediction that they're going to want to make a deal, whereas the lower ranks are the ones that would be more than willing to fight. And Joe, you actually kind of made a similar point about how, if you think it's going to be an easy fight, those guys are. They've been living the ground. They've been living the life. They're not going to go without a fight. And then on top of that, the mid-level and lower-level networks are already arrayed within the U.S. and could act independently without the control of the higher ups in order to extract vengeance upon the U.S. people. It's interesting. We had in the Sinaloa cartel, there's a negotiation where many members of the Sinaloa, like the El Chapulito, the El Chapo family are in negotiations to give themselves up to the U.S.
I don't know about giving themselves up. Several members were admitted to the United States in some sort of a secret deal, not to surrender, but to actually emigrate here. And I
think the deal is probably something along the lines of like the criminal masterminds are the ones that are going to go to jail, but the families are allowed to live freely and with their money in the U.S.
Well, I'm sure the families won't have anything to do with the criminal enterprise.
Oh, absolutely not.
At all.
No.
Something they learned from the mafia, but hey.
Press doubt on that one.
Doubt.
but that's the kind of deal they would make, right? Like you let the little ones go and we got to get the big ones. We got to get and maybe there's a bit of a deal and they don't go to Supermax. They go to something a little more comfy to kind of spend out their days. And maybe it's not for life. Maybe there's a light at the end of the long, dark tunnel of U.S. prisons. And there's probably a information exchange, a heavy information exchange as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But this is a little different. This is a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette story. Dave McCormick, Mark Kelly target Mexican drug cartels in bipartisan legislation. Let's see. It continues to seek ways to block the flow of narcotics, such as fentanyl, into Pennsylvania. And the U.S. partnering this week with Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, total loser, on legislation calling on the State Department to devise a better strategy on American investment in dismantling Mexican drug cartels. Joe, the irony is that the story came out over the weekend that Canada is by far now the larger of the two. Like, more fentanyl is coming through Canada now, was the story that I read over the weekend. Did you read that story?
No.
But we've known fentanyl is coming through Canada as well. The irony is there's just no enforcement along that border when you compare to what's going on the southern border.
It's almost like Canada's in bed with the Chinese.
Good friend and not a YouTuber, Mexican Iron Man, member for 27 months. What is the deal news? Oh, no. Oh, hell no. We got enough Mexicans here. I reject this deal and instead reallocate the slots to smoking hot Ukrainian women. Yeah, we got to evac those cam girls out before it's all said and done.
I wholly endorse this. And Camp Ponderosa is willing to host them on the way in.
We got a halfway house. Yeah. Absolutely. For wayward Ukrainian cam models. Somebody's got to do it. It's a rough job, Joe. Somebody's got to wrangle them. Might as well be.
I'm willing to make the sacrifice. I'm willing to do it.
Well, you've been one to sacrifice quite a bit for all these years.
That's what I do.
There's got to be a tactical wisdom article in there somewhere, like a
right,
like a tongue-in-cheek version of you got to write some funny stuff from time to time. Let's see. The legislation requires the State Department officials develop a strategy, including clear priorities, milestones, and methods to track results. Now, this smacks, Joe, of old school, do nothing, neocon and liberal Democrat lawmaking, right? There's I hear nothing concrete like go to war against the cartels, right? What I hear here is, listen, I'm going to read this again and tell me how effective you think this will be. The legislation requires the State Department officials to develop a strategy. Now, we want you to develop a strategy that has clear priorities, it has milestones, and methods to track results. Not actual methods to stop the flow of fentanyl, but methods to track the results. For funds meant to boost the Mexican military, those funds will go to good use, I'm sure. And public security capacity, and to combat public corruption and impunity. That's what the law. Does that sound like something that's going to do anything at all?
No.
Yeah, this is two bipartisan guys basically 69ing each other. For far too long, the Mexican drug cartels have poisoned communities in Pennsylvania and across the country with deadly fentanyl. I agree with this. I totally agree with this. The problem is I don't think that these guys are serious about stopping it. We need a clear strategy to dismantle the cartels that has real accountability and metrics for success. I mean, it's literally like they're focusing only on the reporting procedures and not on the actual.
Right.
So we know security cooperation is actually achieving its results. They don't care if it happens. They just want to know that there's some metrics for success.
More accurately, they just want people to feel good about it.
Amen. It's feel-good legislation. These motherfuckers have all been these limousines liberals is essentially what is what they've been all about this stuff since the old days, right? Like my favorite like do nothing feel good legislation of all time was the ban on landmines. Well, that makes me feel good. We banned landmines. I bet they'll never use landmines ever again in war. Guess what? They still use landmines, and everybody who signs it that has subsequently gone to war has gone back to using landmines. Iceland, of course, still trumpets the fact that they don't use landmines, but then again, they're an island in the North Sea that never goes to war, and they don't have a military. The number of opioid deaths in Pennsylvania dropped by almost a quarter between July of 2023 and July of 2024. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention announced in December. Deaths declined from 5,195 to 3,937 over that period, a 24% decline in the Keystone State, marking the Commonwealth's lowest level of opioid overdose deaths since July 2016. Nationally, opioid deaths declined almost 17% during the same 12-month period. But the issue has remained a center of bipartisan efforts in Congress and in the Trump administration policy, including in trade diplomacy and the use of the military. You know, if anything, the most hopeful thing for me that came out of the whole Trump-China trade negotiations announcement was the fact that China brought up the fact that, hey, we'd be willing to stop all exports of fentanyl precursors to Mexico and Canada.
Great idea.
I believe them when I see it, but that's basically them saying, yeah, we know what we're doing. You don't think we don't know what we're doing? We know what we're doing. And we know you're not doing shit about it.
Yes.
Anyway, I just wanted to show you this story as an example of like how just utterly feckless the U.S. politicians are when it comes to this real problem. So let's go more to the actually doing something about it. This is a news forward from Tucson, KVOA. Nogales cartel lookout dismantled a joint U.S.-Mexico operation. Let's see. U.S. Border Patrol and Mexican government in Mexico successfully dismantled a cartel surveillance site near Nogales. The site, equipped with gear to monitor law enforcement activity, was targeted by a coordinated patrol on May 12th. This is another blow to transnational criminal organizations, said Chief Michael W. Banks. The operation aims to curb the efforts of those organizations to evade border security, and dismantling of such sites is crucial for maintaining the integrity of border operations. Joe, it's almost like there are insurgent activity, terrorist insurgents on the U.S. border, operating with impunity along the U.S. border. Say it ain't so. I don't believe it. This is crazy talk. Who are these Republicans for saying that these terrorist organizations are in fact not the proprietors of civic virtue that we all know them to be? Oh, did you step away?
Me? No, but I think Joe said that he has to go.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm sorry. I had people coming in for the class that I had to deal with.
No. I was just so I just read this story about this Nogales cartel lookout dismantled in joint U.S. operation, and so it's kind of like, wow, Joe. It's almost like we have militant terrorist organizations operating on U.S. soil and along the border, and in Mexico. And they're using some very sophisticated. I mean, this. Let's be honest. The hilltop observation post is as old as the hills, literally.
And that's all this was literally an OPLP, right? Yeah.
And it's observation, it's communications, and in this new day and age, it's also drones. And so let's see. I want to go down one more. Not the Ultima Hora Confirmado one, Watcher. I want the notable setup. The X post, not that. That one. I want that one. So to that end, Joe, we were talking about this before the show started. Notable setup for drone detection being operated by CJNG in this video. CJNG Sicarios are operating a Chinese-manufactured drone detector. What's notable about this system, it can be used to detect and direction find drones and operators. Interesting piece of kit here. It says here this is kind of information about the it says the VBE-1 PD drone detector is a portable drone monitoring platform used for detection, identification, location, and tracking of drones and pilots. It's suitable for drone monitoring in scenarios such as major events, daily security patrol, VIPs, Secret Service, critical infrastructure, etc. It works offline or online with the option to connect multiple devices to cover a large area. It's highly portable, easy to carry, and use, ready to deploy in seconds. Joe, if you're not thinking like these kind of lines of signals intelligence and signal and drone detection, which is one of the things that Matt's been really up on with his classes, and I know you've shared many devices. And Watcher, you've been kind of dipping your toe into this, right?
See, I'm not the only one.
I know.
Here's a link to that website right there in the private chat. The company's website.
This is the one that
from Matt.
Let's see. Learn more. Let's see.
So we talked about this morning, and I know Matt sells a handheld drone detector that's pretty neat, but this one's a little bit more advanced and a little bit bigger. That's that the Mini is not the one that he had; it was the other one.
It looks like the AP2 is very similar.
Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, that's the one it looks like. Look, it's not the same device, but it's a similar type device, is what it looks like.
Yep.
But the fact that not only can it DF the drone, but then also DF the operator of the drone, that's pretty interesting. And I didn't realize that.
I will point out that it's way easier to DF the drone operator than it is the drone, because the drone is moving and the operator is not.
Yeah. If you know the drone is there, then you know you're within range of the operator, kind of thing.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay. So I'll also point out that actually the operator thing's even easier. You don't even need specialty equipment, because Congress passed a law that says that the drone has to broadcast where the operator is at all times now. So literally all you need is just
well, but that is somebody who's
unsafe.
somebody who's playing by the rules, and the idea is if you're being serious, you're not playing by the rules. So,
well, look, if you were being serious enough and not playing by the rules enough, your drone wouldn't be emitting anyways, because you would be essentially flying a pre-programmed route and then collecting that on the opposite end of the payload. But
yeah. So I thought this was interesting. I mean, these are the kind of capabilities that transnational criminals are going with. So, we need to kind of be keeping our eye to opportunities like this to either replicate some of these capabilities within our formations, or just get smarter and understanding how they work, so that we know where these threats are going to be coming from. Let's see. I'm trying to go back to that.
All right, I have to roll because I have to get over to the class. So,
all right, Joe. We'll see you, brother. Thanks for being here. All right, moving on. You'll see, Watcher. You can't ditch me now, otherwise it's just me talking to the chat. And the chat.
I mean, when one of my kids wakes up, I'm gonna have to.
Oh, well, I thought you agreed that you were going to give them plenty of cough syrup.
The Hat Man's babysitting.
That's right. All right, moving on to the next one here. So this is a Spanish language ex-post. An alliance between the Los Chapitos and the CJNG is a fact. This video shows the presence of armed groups in a deserted area with two prisoners kneeling. purely people from Mr. Mencho and Mr. Ivan. They're going all out against the Mayos. And so this refers to the kind of the interceding conflict between wings of the Sinaloa cartel, El Mayo, and then Mr. El Mencho is the leader of CJNG. Yeah, if you don't think that these guys, I mean, these guys are just as a legitimate armed force as any of the other terrorist groups that we deal with anywhere in the world. Shockingly, this probably looks very similar to something you might see, say, a Syrian, a Syrian group, or whatever. The only difference is that their big money maker is not oil and things like that. Their big money maker is drugs and avocados, evidently.
Well, avocados this year, laundry detergent last year. It all depends on what
petroleum thieving as well.
Yeah, it literally all depends on what is making good margins that year that they can start to get their hooks into.
Oh, and they'll do it. It doesn't matter. They'll do anything that works. They are not drone detection. I love how I feel like I feel like our good buddy Old Hong Kong was
may have been listening to the show this morning.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny one. He's got one of those ear horns for hard of hearing people as a drone detection device. All right, let's move on. Narco news. This is let's see. This is a ex-post. Narco news. The narco war between cartels in the state of Nuevo Leon, Mexico continues. Gulf Cartel Metros versus CJNG fully engaged. The cartel del Norte, Noreste, CDN, and the Zetas in the hometown of Dr. Cross, less than 50 miles from the Texas border. There's some video here. Let's see what we can do. Holy cow. That's a 50 cal right there that they're shooting into this barrier. Or no, it's another vehicle. That's what that is. That's another one of their armored trucks.
Yeah. This is so.
And see that one's got a 50 cal sniper rifle over the edge.
Yeah. This is the lamer on land version, essentially, of those. You remember the early ironclads, the duel of the early ironclads that happened, where like neither could actually hurt each other, and they just kind of both went home.
Yeah. Well, if that guy's got a 50 cal on top, he can definitely penetrate that plate steel that they've got there, and ears. It's combat footage, brother. What are you gonna expect? All right. Warning. We're gonna go to the next piece of video. Let's see what they do with that. And be ready. I think there was a warning, like a content warning on this, so just be ready to have to. All right. I get the feeling that we're gonna have dead body any moment now. Yeah. Let's stop this one. I just went ahead a little further and it's not super graphic, but it's like, it's kick you off YouTube graphic. Yeah. Later on, it's close-ups. So if you guys want to see the all the gory details, the second half of that video, they have some BDA, some shots. Let's see. Let's look at the next video here. It's a short one.
Donde nos costó entrar, hijo de puta.
I mean, who doesn't love dumbass narco terrorist, rolling through the hometown on foot patrol. So this is the area near Reynosa. Reynosa's been a hotbed of narco gunfights going back 20 years. So yeah, anyone who's fired a 50 cal knows that sound. Yeah, you're not lying. And let's see. Let's go to the next one. So this is why I'm not hopeful when it comes to our Mexican allies down south. This is a tweet, says, saw footage of a military operation in Sinaloa. Flashlights everywhere, no coordination, no stealth, just chaos. It looks more like a rookie airsoft team than an elite force, and they wonder why cartels still run the show. So let's.
This has a very distinct feel to me. I've seen this before. Body language sort of screams. Bunch of greenies who've only ever done this before at a Mowtown.
Well, so I disagree. I think if what you learn in a mount site is violent speed, like a little Dr. Disrespect style violent speed momentum, right? You get that you get going.
Sure, if your instructor actually, walks you through that, but if they just, for instance, we're talking through a translator and
what this looks like are people who have never done it anywhere other than the real world and are scared shitless of actually getting involved in a fight.
Yep. Oh, and are performing a lot of mistakes. They're going to get them killed too. Oh man, no hustle, like absolutely no violence of action.
Yeah. That's all I got for today, guys. 1 hour 53 minutes. 679 eyeballs on the show right now. Thank you guys very much, whether you're on X or Rumble or YouTube. Yeah, no. This is actually a good point. A lot of people basically kind of say, "Oh, what are you talking about? Mexico is just a regular country. There's some trouble spots like any country, but most of people just go to whatever, go about their business." No, the government is not in control anywhere outside of certain large areas, and even in certain large areas, when the cartel decides to roll in, the cops run away. And the cartels have the run of the place until they decide to leave.
And here's the other scary thing that this isn't a recent development. I'm not sure exactly what it was that the Mexican government lost control of their country, but I could tell you that it's been longer than my lifetime.
100%. Watcher, any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with the folks?
Just kind of a thought in the same category. If you want to go check it out, I'm hearing rumors from some of the larger channels that offer some pretty good evidence of it. That the instruction at the DHS and the FBI have been that we are going to fully dismantle any and all cartel activity in the United States, and that we are going to do our damnedest to arrest anybody in the command structure of the cartels that resides here. And it looks like they are at least putting in an honest effort there. We can't get everything we want, right? But that would be a damn good door prize. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so one of the things that kind of came out over the weekend was this interview with Bongino and so the question might be on some of your minds, why aren't we talking about that? Well, we're saving that for Friday. Because when they do those types of interviews, those become like they live in everybody's head for a week. And so we can get a little better perspective. I also want to talk about some of the announcements about them talking about moving the FBI, basically shutting down the FBI headquarters, which is something Kash Patel said a while back. And that we all kind of were like, what? And then we said that, that'll never happen, right? But so basically, just to kind of give a teaser on that, evidently there are a lot of problems with that building.
Yeah, it is going to happen. It's just they're going to literally pitch it as an upgrade, and they're going to literally it's not in disgrace in any way, shape, or form. They're literally they're going to turn it into a museum after they do a lot of renovation work. Because
so the thing that I'm hearing is that the FBI would then essentially dispersed to the winds in federal buildings, because the federal government owns a lot of empty buildings, and so and now that may be part of Kash Patel's grand plan to kind of downsize the FBI. I don't know. You guys know that I liked everything he said coming into the job, right? He was actually one of the ones I had the highest hope for. And he's been one of the ones that's been very disappointing to me since then. So I don't know if there's he's doing chess moves in the back room that we can't see, and that all of a sudden 6 months from now, there's going to be this huge, I don't know. I just tend to think that if I can't see it, it ain't happening. So we'll see. And so anyway, that's my kind of general philosophy. Both Kash and Dan Bongino are people that I think are good people. I just get the feeling that if they don't really make big moves with the FBI, that nobody's ever going to believe a fucking word they say coming out of this. And I will say the whole Epstein didn't, killed himself thing was not something I had on my bingo cards. And if anything, if of all the things that they said, that's the one that I hate to say it. It's probably true. It's probably what they said is probably true. Just because our favorite conspiracy theory, we're so used to our conspiracy theories coming true because they have all been coming true lately, that when one doesn't, we're just inherently distrustful. So that it makes me feel like I have to.
Yeah, I'm taking the opposite there.
I as well you should if but the
all
simple
the
fact
manufacturing and production around that.
I got it. I totally understand.
To happen to cosmically coincide with the exact moment.
You and I don't have direct access to the primary source information on that, so if I say that I think he killed himself or he didn't kill himself, it's just my feeling. It's not me knowing.
I get you, but I have the ability to run quick probability numbers in my head, and let's just say,
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and you should stick by your guns. I mean, ultimately, I don't. My reality is not constructed on whether or not he killed himself or not. He was a bad guy. I'd like to focus on getting the people who he dealt with. That are still alive. Those are the people I'd be interested in kind of going after. That's because we know that terrible people did terrible things and they're still out there.
No, I get you, and I hate to say this, but I'm sorry. That was never on the table. The people that he sold to getting held responsible, that was never on the table. It's never going to happen. The one thing we did have was the potential to hold the institutions accountable that killed the man who had the evidence. And yet we're now being told that our champions, the one that we fought so hard and had to basically dismantle systems in order to put them in place, they were just falling right in line.
All right. Gentlemen, Mr. Watcher. Chat, thank you guys for being here. I'm going to, instead of doing a prediction, I'm going to say, if you haven't done it already, all right. If you haven't done it already, please go over to brushbeater.store. Check out all the amazing stuff, the radios, the nods, all the stuffs. If you're interested, check out the classes. If you do any big ticket item on there, make sure you put our code in, save 5%. Or a little item, it doesn't matter. He's definitely given us feedback that you guys are using the code, and in and around when the show's on, you guys are going to the store. So I appreciate the fact that you guys you want to give him a bit of a thrill as soon as you get out of the show, or even while you're watching it, if you're on a computer or whatever, go and open the store and browse around for a few minutes. And definitely that DM32, I'm excited to get my hands on that. That is a really next level radio compared to the more simpler, not less valid or whatever, but the 152, which we all really like. The one I have right there back behind me. So if you would, brushbeater.store, and check out the stuff, all the stuffs. And if you decide to buy something, use code CFC10 for 5% off. Order more than $100 worth of stuff, and the shipping is free. Watcher, thanks for being here. Chat, you guys are awesome. If you haven't done it already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel either on YouTube, Rumble, give us a follow over on X at Future Conflict. We appreciate all of your guys' interactions. Let people know you're getting good stuff over here on the Future Conflict channels. And as always, stay safe.